Good morning, this is Karleigh for Black History News. Jazz music icon Duke Ellington was born on April 29, 1899. His real name was actually Edward Kennedy Ellington, but he obtained his nickname from his parents because of his gentlemanly ways. He grew up in a well-off middle-class family and lived in Washington, D.C. At just 7 years old, Duke began piano lessons. He even started writing music by the time he was a teenager, and when he was 17 years old, he dropped out of high school to pursue his career in music. In the 1920s, Duke began performing in Broadway nightclubs with the first band that he was a part of. This band was called the Washingtonians. They started recording music in 1924, and their first signature song was called East St. Louis Toodaloo. Extended residencies at the Cotton Club in Harlem influenced Duke to enlarge his band to 14 musicians. Ellington became nationally known due to radio broadcasts. He contributed to society because he had such an impact on classical and mainly jazz music in America. Eventually, he got married and had one son with his wife Edna Thompson. His son's name was Mercer Ellington. Duke died from pneumonia and lung cancer at the age of 75 on May 24, 1974. Duke is still remembered today, however. He has a star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and he is also a ghost played by Jordan Peele in the Netflix show Big Mouth. Here's Skylar and Colton with a story on the Montgomery bus boycott.
It had been 90 years since the end of the Civil War, and African Americans throughout the South are still being segregated. They go home every day from work and are forced to sit in the back of the bus or forced to stand in favor of a white person. This system of life is unjust and disrespectful. Rosa Parks was just an ordinary person who went to work in the morning and wanted to relax after a night of dealing with the stresses of life. On December 1st, 1955, Rosa was taking her normal means of commuting home on the bus. The bus ride was fine until the driver of the bus noticed there was no seat for one white man. The driver then proceeded to ask the 4 people in the first row of the colored section of the bus to give up their seat for white passengers. 3 of those mentioned seated passengers accepted the proposal and stood up, for this is what they grew accustomed to doing. Rosa did not. Eventually, 2 officers came aboard the bus and assessed the situation and placed Parks in custody. She was taken to jail but was later bailed out by a local civil rights leader.
This was not the first time an event like this had occurred, but local civil rights leaders saw this as an opportunity to challenge the broken system. Joanne Robinson and Edie Nixon, 2 prominent figures in the African American community, distributed leaflets describing Parks' arrest and called for a one-day bus boycott on December 5th. The bus boycott was so successful that they chose to continue the boycott indefinitely. A group of local ministers formed the Montgomery Improvement Association to support the boycott and challenge segregation laws. A man by the name of Martin Luther King was elected president of this new founded group. He was new to the area, had very few enemies, and they believed he could rally the citizens. Many white citizens retaliated greatly against the whole boycott in terrible ways. King's home was bombed, and many boycotters were threatened or fired from their jobs. Several times the police arrested protesters and took them to jail, once charging 80 leaders of the boycott with violating a 1921 law that barred conspiracies to interfere with lawful businesses without just cause. Despite such intimidation, the boycott continued for more than a year. The MIA filed a federal suit against bus segregation, and on June 5, 1956, a federal district court declared segregated seating on buses to be unconstitutional. The Supreme Court upheld that ruling in mid-November. The federal decision went into effect on December 20, 1956. The boycott garnered a great deal of publicity in the national press, and King became well known throughout the country. This was just one step in a big process to just give people with a different color of skin the same rights as another race.